I the a-hole for not sharing my inheritance? So, bit of a background. I was a big oops. My bio mom was a wealthy woman who apparently never wanted marriage or kids. She met my dad at a work event, same job type, different locations, not sharing specifics for anonymity, and they started seeing each other casually for a few months. And then boom! Her pill, the rubber, and a plan B all failed to stop me from existing. My mother was going to abort me, but my father begged her not to because he was actually married and was told that his wife only had like a 1% chance of ever carrying a baby to term. She agreed only on the stipulation that she can give me up. No visitation, no parenting, nothing but child support. And he and his wife reached an agreement and took me under the ruse she'd raise me as her biological daughter. Needless to say, I never met my bio mom, but it doesn't get any better for me from there. My stepmom actually ended up having a miracle about a year after I was born. A son. My brother has never treated me any different, and I love him dearly, but I could always tell I was never my parents' priority. I more or less just kind of existed to be seen, never heard or really acknowledged unless it was something for the family. When I turned 13, I got the opportunity to meet my bio grandma, mom's mom. She had no idea I existed and petitioned for visitation. I loved it so much with her that I asked if I could live with her. My dad and stepmom seemed happy to be rid of me and accepted. My bio mom never visited her mom anyway, a rift over her not settling down and having kids. Well, that was 6 years ago. My bio mom just died a month ago and surprisingly left everything she owned to me, with the stipulation that I go to school for business and better myself according to her letter that the lawyer and trustee told me about. This is life-changing money. I'm talking I went from lowest middle class, grandma left everything to me, but it wasn't a lot, just a house and a couple thousand, to a multi-millionaire. Now, my dad and stepmom are on my case to share the money. I have no idea how they found out as grandma passed last year, right after I graduated. It was her dream to see me graduate and she had been sick for a few years. And the only person I talked to is my brother, but I never even told him. Apparently, they don't have the money to send him to an Ivy League school like they've always wanted. But money's no longer an object for me. I know they raised me for 13 years, but this money could really change my life. Am I the a-hole if I don't share it? Now for the top comments. Don't give them money. Maybe set something up with a lawyer like a trust for your brother to use for only school. This way money can't be withdrawn from it. They have proven they only want the money, not the a-hole. This is a reasonable thing to do. Despite the parents treating her indifferently, her brother sounds like he was a good brother. So I can understand if she wants to help him, but with rules in place that make sure it's only him that benefits. It's still a huge favor on Opie's part. Opie's not a-hole in any way, shape or form. Not a-hole. Clearly you weren't a priority until it benefited them. They let you go without thinking twice. Keep the money and do with it as your grandman you would have wanted to. Seems your bio mom showed up for you in ways the family that was physically there didn't. Yes, yes, yes. Opie, you weren't a priority until you had something they wanted to take. If you want to help your brother, contact a lawyer who can help you set up a trust account that pays only for his university tuition, so it cannot be withdrawn by your dad and stepmom, and your brother cannot be pressured to give them anything, etc. Not a-hole. They should have treated you better, and now they are facing the same fate as Cinderella's family did in the classic fairy tale. You reap what you sow. Please hire a financial advisor. This, you want someone who can help maintain the money, as well as help avoid tax situations you've never had to deal with before. Also, tell your parents to kick rocks. When your brother graduates, if you want to pay off whatever loans he has, you can make that decision for yourself based on the relationship you have with him. But don't tell him or these jerks it's even the remotest option. They sound like the kind of people who will never leave you alone if they think they can use you for their own ends. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for allowing my stepson to call me dad? My wife, 39 female, and I, 36 male, got married and moved in together last year after 3 years of dating. She has a son, 15 male, with her ex-husband, 42 male. He was never abusive to any of them, but he used to be extremely cold, emotionally distant, and easily irritable. So my wife divorced him when the kid was 8. Since then, he has constantly tried to be involved in his life, but the child doesn't like him at all. He tries to make a man out of him, but his son is a huge softie, which is obviously an inherent incompatibility. He views his dad's approach as him not being accepting of who he is. I met the kiddo when he was 12. I had already been dating my wife for a year at that point, and we both knew that things were going to get serious, so it was the right time. I instantly felt a connection to him, and my paternal instincts spiked up. I'm sterile and I love children, which is an unfortunate combination. From that moment on, I started spending as much time with him as possible. The ex-husband really hated this and accused me of trying to steal his son. After we all moved in together, I started taking care of him full-time basically, because I work from home. I cook him breakfast in the morning, I pack him lunch, I drop and pick him off from school, I help him with his homework. We play video games together, work out, do sports, watch movies, listen to music, go on trips, etc. He talks with me about anything. I love him so much, and I consider him my own son. This week, he came to me crying after a meeting with his dad. The father apparently started trash-talking me and telling him things such as, "He's not your real dad. He's just a stranger. He's only being nice to you to get closer to your mom. He'll never see you as his own child, etc." The poor kid actually defended me in front of his dad. I hugged him tight and assured him that I love him more than anything, and that he is definitely my son. He calmed down in the end and let me know that from now on, he wants to call me dad publicly and in front of everyone. He called me by my first name before, because I'm his male role model and real dad, and that he loves, respects, and admires me a lot. I told him okay, whatever he feels the most comfortable with. My wife's ex-husband called me yesterday to berate me for allowing this to happen, saying that because of me he'll never be able to rebuild the relationship with his son now, and that I crossed some huge boundaries and I should be ashamed of myself for that. Not the a-hole, at all. Tell him to buzz off. If his son wants to call you dad, it's really nothing to do with anyone but the kid. I feel like he was hoping to emotionally isolate son until he was desperate enough to mimic the emotional language of the dad. When Opie stepped up and was kind and also loving and accepting, that plan was completely wrecked. Without a doubt. He clearly didn't account for the fact that teenagers always do the exact opposite of what you want them to do. Not stay home. The divorce happened 4 years before you met the kid, so it's not like you swooped in while things were getting settled to just take over as dad. Somehow, my dad didn't bother bonding properly with his kid during that time. That's his own fault. You have a teenage son who likes you. Good job, mate. He probably didn't bond properly from the very beginning. So the kid never aspired to be like his bio dad. At puberty, he started becoming his own man, while bio dad, who probably thought that it was his wife's job to take care of the kid while he was little, decided that now it was time to teach him to be a man, in his own image. Except that around that time, the kid met Opie and saw in him a man he wanted to grow up to be like, not one he had to grow up to be like. Some men raised old-fashioned really believe that a child will magically love someone just because they're biologically related. My dad left us before my sister was even born. I decided to come back when I was 12 and she was 10. He was really surprised when we didn't immediately just adore him and try to be like him. Kept talking crap about our grandfather who was a real father figure in our lives. Now that we are adults, my sister went no contact and I speak to him a couple of times per year mostly out of pity. Not stay home. Way to go, Opie. In a very real sense, you are his dad, which is so much more than biological progenitor. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my daughter and her husband move into my son's room while he's being hospitalized? I'm widowed with 2 children, Lillian 24 and Adam 17. After my husband's death, we sold the house, gave Lillian her part of the inheritance, and then put Adam's inheritance money towards his college fund. Adam and I now live in a 2-bedroom apartment. 2 months ago, Lillian's husband blew all her inheritance money and got them involved into debts that caused them to become homeless. It's a scheme her husband put all the money on and they lost everything. They begged to come live with us. I said yes, and they have taken over the living room ever since, causing a huge mess. Now a bit about Adam. So Adam is dealing with a number of health issues. His father's death literally ruined him. And very recently, his condition required for him to be admitted to the hospital and getting rehab. He literally yelled out for his dad at the hospital. It's heartbreaking to see him like that. It's just an overall sad situation and whole family is praying for Adam to get better and be home soon. Lillian came to me yesterday and told me that her husband suggested that since Adam is going to be away from home for a while, then maybe I could let them temporarily move into his room. I was shocked, but I declined with a simple no. She ranted about how staying in the living room and the couch has damaged hers and her husband's health, and also lack of privacy pretty much ended any intimacy they had, and I should consider letting them take the room and promise that Adam won't find out or even noticed. I said no because there's stuff in there that Adam's dad bought him, and Adam wouldn't want it touched. She got upset and called her husband to come talk some sense into me. He went on about how Lillian is as much my daughter as Adam is my son, and said that it wasn't like they were moving in permanently, but I still refused, and the three of us started arguing. Lillian teared up and said that I was stubborn and cold towards her, but I said it wasn't my fault her husband decided to throw away her inheritance money and caused them to be in this situation. She stormed out of my room and her husband followed to comfort her. They both haven't been talking to me or even asked how Adam is doing. Am I being stubborn for saying his room is off limits, or are they being unreasonable? Now for the comments. WTF? You need to make them move out, OP. I can't imagine them being there is in any way having a positive effect on your mental health, or your son's. Evict them. Do it today rather than tomorrow because they will take over Adam's room the moment you're out to get groceries. And they will invade its privacy and safe space and cause harm that cannot be undone. If you don't want to leave them high and dry, pay for a motel for a week. But you need to realize that their bad decision-making will not stop at blowing all of the money, husband, and staying with the idiot that blew all her money, daughter. Not day-hole. Honestly, you've been more than generous letting two adults move in with you in the first place. You need to lock Adam's room to keep them out though, since it sounds like they both think rules don't apply to them. I agree. I'm sure them being there isn't going to help Adam's recovery. Yes, Lillian is your daughter too, but she's an adult and she's married. You are no longer responsible or required to keep a roof over her head. Your son is a minor, and as such, you have certain responsibilities towards him that you don't have for your adult daughter. Your daughter has had 2 months to get back on her feet. Perhaps they need to be getting a couple of extra jobs to get the funds together to get an apartment if they don't like where they're currently living. But you shouldn't have to pack up your son's stuff while he's in the hospital, so that they can have more space. If they want more space, then you need to get off their butts and get their own place again. Or maybe they can go live with his parents. Not stay home. Yes, don't let them get any more comfortable than they already are, or they'll never leave. She's your daughter and she was given her inheritance and blew it. I'll bet she had a bedroom in your house when she was 17. Your son deserves to have his own space now too. Not day home. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for throwing a family into the street? Okay, so it sounds worse than it is, I think. My wife and I purchased a home back in August from a family who was waiting for the construction on their own home to be completed. We agreed to close at the end of December, but further agreed to give them a grace period of up to 3 months to end of March if their construction was delayed past the expected completion date. They repeatedly told us they didn't expect any excess delays and would be trying to move out of the house as soon as possible. In November, the seller informed us that they were going to need to take the full 3-month grace period, as their construction had gotten more delayed than expected. We grumbled at the time but accepted this, since it was in the contract and was their right to take it. In the meantime, my wife and I have been living in an apartment my parents own, waiting to move into our new home. My parents bought the place in our city so they could spend more time closer to us and to our child who is their first grandchild, born 10 months ago. My parents only plan on moving here for an extended period starting in September of this year. The apartment we're in is pretty small. It is not really suitable for a baby, especially one who is right on the cusp of walking. We are very eager at this point to move into the new place and make sure it has sufficient amenities for the baby as well as for us. In order to get things ready as soon as possible, my wife has been working to secure a contractor for a renovation of our new home, which is estimated to take up to a month. We have already paid a down payment to the contractor to book him for April of this year. So you can imagine our surprise when the seller called up about a week ago and offered to pay rent for us to extend the grace period an extra 6 weeks. We didn't really want to delay further, so we told them that we were sticking to the terms of our contract. and that they had to give us the keys and remove all of their property from the premises by the end of March. Today they called again and this time begged to let them stay for an extra month until the beginning of May. They said that they had nowhere to go. Her mother is going into surgery at the end of the month and they don't have a place near where their daughter is supposed to go to school. We wanted to be reasonable, so we called our contractor to see if he could push off doing the work until May. But he is already booked and wouldn't be able to start the work until August. So we called them back and told them we wouldn't be able to help, and that they would have to make arrangements for themselves elsewhere. At this point, the wife of the couple started crying and saying we were basically throwing them out onto the street. We do have a safe, free place to stay, but we are already paying the mortgage on the house that they are currently living in. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for sticking to the terms of the contract and forcing them to leave the home? Not an a-hole. You are not an a-hole for holding them to the contractual agreement they signed when you bought the house. What they are dealing with is not wanting to be inconvenienced by storing their stuff and temporarily living in an Airbnb. You need a house to complete your planned renovations, and you can't delay that because that would then screw over your folks moving into their apartment where you are currently staying. And trust me, you want to have a buffer for your renovations as well. And consider this, they have 2 months ahead of them to figure out alternative housing. Staying in the house is just what's easiest for them. Exactly. Furthermore, since this is a done deal, have they blown the money from the sale? Clearly, they had some wealth if they were building a home and are paying off family medical bills simultaneously. I understand crap happens, but I highly doubt that they suddenly just broke the bank. Not a home. Good grief. Sorry to say this, but you may have to legally evict those folks. Would you actually have to evict rather than just make them leave? The new owners never rented to them, have never received money from them, and have a contract. If I bought something from you and didn't give it to you, that's theft. It would suck if they have to do that.